The phone call came on a Tuesday afternoon, 3 weeks before New Year's Eve. Ivy, we need to talk. Derek's voice had that careful, measured tone he used when he was about to say something he knew I wouldn't like. I pressed the phone against my ear, my eyes still on the financial projections spreadsheet covering my screen. Numbers, patterns, solutions. That's what I did best. What's up, Derek? It's about the New Year's Gala. Victoria's family is hosting it at their estate in Beverly Hills. It's going to be a very formal event, very high profile. I waited. There was more coming. I could hear it in the pause. Look, Ivy, I love you, you know that, but Victoria's family, the Montgomerys, they have certain expectations, certain standards. And with your job being, just data entry and living in that small apartment in Koreatown, I think it might be better if you sat this one out. The words hit me like ice water. Data entry. That's what he thought I did? That's what I'd let him think I did. You're uninviting me to a family New Year's party because I'm an embarrassment? My voice was calm. Years of keeping my real work confidential had taught me how to control my reactions. God, don't say it like that. It's just, Victoria's father is Charles Montgomery, Montgomery Real Estate Empire. Her mother sits on the boards of half the museums in LA. Her brother just got appointed to some federal commission. And you work with spreadsheets all day. You drive a 10-year-old Honda. You wear clothes from Target. I see. Come on, Ivy, don't be like this. I'm trying to protect you. These people, they'd look down on you. They'd make you feel small. I'm your big brother. I'm just looking out for you. I closed my laptop slowly. Derek, have you ever asked me exactly what I do for work? You're a data analyst or something, right? For some company? Look, there's nothing wrong with that. It's honest work. But it's not exactly Montgomery level, you know? Right, of course. I could feel something cold settling in my chest. Not anger, something else. Clarity. Well, thanks for letting me know. Have fun at the party. You're not mad, are you? Ivy, come on. I hung up. For a long moment, I sat in my office, the 23rd floor view of downtown Los Angeles stretching before me. My office, the one with my name on the door. Ivy Chen, Senior Data Strategist, Apex Hospitality Group. My assistant, Marcus, knocked and poked his head in. Ms. Chen, Mr. Harrison wants to confirm you're still available for the Montgomery New Year's Gala. He said it's crucial you're there. I smiled. Tell him I wouldn't miss it for the world. Let me take you back 6 months to explain how we got here. I'd always been good with numbers. Not just good, exceptional. While Derek was the charismatic one, the one who could walk into a room and charm everyone, I was the one who could look at a column of figures and see the story they told, the patterns, the problems, the solutions. After getting my master's in data science from USC, I'd started at Apex Hospitality Group as a junior analyst. Within 2 years, I was senior data strategist. My job wasn't just crunching numbers. I analyzed market trends, predicted revenue streams, identified failing properties, and created the strategies that had turned Apex from a struggling chain into one of the most profitable luxury resort groups in the country. But I didn't talk about it, not because I was modest, because my work was confidential. I signed NDAs regularly. The strategies I developed, the insights I provided, they were worth millions. Competitors would kill to know what I knew. So when Derek asked what I did, I said data analysis and left it at that. When he saw my modest apartment, he didn't know I was saving 70% of my salary and had more in investments than he'd make in 10 years. When he saw my old Honda, he didn't know I preferred reliable over flashy. I'd let him think I was ordinary, because it was easier than explaining, because I never thought it would matter, until it did. The week after Derek's phone call, I attended my regular strategy meeting with James Harrison, CEO of Apex Hospitality Group. Ivy, I need your genius again. James slid a folder across the conference table. Montgomery Resort Group. They own 15 properties across California. They're bleeding money. 3 properties on the verge of closure. They've approached us about a potential acquisition, but the numbers look terrible. I opened the folder. Montgomery Resort Group. Charles Montgomery, CEO. The same Charles Montgomery who was Derek's father-in-law. The same family that thought I wasn't good enough to attend their party. When do you need the analysis? I asked, my mind already sorting through the data. 2 weeks. They want to meet after New Year's. Charles Montgomery himself is desperate. If we can figure out how to save his resorts, this could be the biggest deal of the decade. I spent the next 2 weeks buried in Montgomery Resort Group's data, and what I found was fascinating. The properties weren't failing because of location or market conditions. They were failing because of catastrophically bad data analysis. Someone had been making decisions based on outdated algorithms and incomplete information. They'd raised prices in the wrong seasons, cut staff at peak times, and invested in amenities their actual customer base didn't want. It was fixable, completely fixable, and I could see exactly how to do it. I wrote a 40-page strategic analysis, every problem identified, every solution outlined, revenue projections that would not only save the resorts, but increase their profitability by 40% within 18 months. "This is brilliant," James said when I presented it to him. "Ivy, you've done it again. Montgomery's going to be thrilled. I want you at the meeting with him in January. You need to present this yourself." "Actually," I said slowly, "I think I'll meet him sooner than that." James looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I have an invitation to the Montgomery New Year's Gala." His eyes widened. "You know the Montgomerys personally?" "You could say that. My brother married Victoria Montgomery." James burst out laughing. "Your brother married into the Montgomery family and you didn't mention it?" "It didn't seem relevant," I smiled, "but I think it's about to become very relevant." New Year's Eve arrived cold and clear. I stood in front of my closet looking at my usual wardrobe. Practical, comfortable, unremarkable. Then I looked at the garment bag I'd picked up from the boutique that afternoon. I'd never been one for designer clothes, but tonight wasn't about me. It was about making a point. The dress was midnight blue, elegant and sophisticated, not flashy, not trying too hard, just expensive in a way that people like the Montgomerys would recognize instantly. I paired it with simple jewelry and the Louboutin heels I'd bought but never worn. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself, not because I looked different, but because I looked like someone who belonged in that world, because I did belong. I'd just never bothered to show it. My phone buzzed. A text from James. "Car's outside. Ready to crash a party?" I smiled. James had insisted on coming with me. "This I have to see," he'd said. "Besides, if Charles Montgomery is there, I might as well start building the relationship." The car pulled up to the Montgomery estate in Beverly Hills at 8 p.m. The house was massive, all lit up, with valets parking luxury cars and guests in evening wear streaming through the front entrance. "Nervous?" James asked as we got out. "Should I be?" "Ivy, you're about to walk into a party hosted by your in-laws who don't know you exist, accompanied by your CEO, carrying the knowledge that you're the only person who can save their family business. If that doesn't make you nervous, nothing will." Then I guess nothing will. We walked through the entrance, and I had to admit it was impressive. The foyer was 3 stories tall, with a crystal chandelier that probably cost more than my apartment. Waiters circulated with champagne. A string quartet played in the corner. Everyone was dressed like they'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. And there, near the bottom of the grand staircase, were Derek and Victoria. Derek saw me first. His face went through several emotions in rapid succession. Confusion, shock, panic. He said something to Victoria, and she turned. Victoria Montgomery Chen was beautiful in that effortless way that came from excellent genes and unlimited money. Blonde, tall, poised.
She'd been polite to me the few times we'd met, in that distant way that said she was being nice but didn't really see me as worth her attention. Her expression when she saw me was priceless. Her eyes swept over my dress, my shoes, the distinguished-looking man beside me, and something like alarm crossed her face. She grabbed Derek's arm and they started walking toward us, fast. "Ivy?" Derek's voice was strangled. "What are you doing here?" "Attending a New Year's party," I said pleasantly. "You remember James Harrison, don't you? CEO of Apex Hospitality Group? James, my brother Derek, and his wife Victoria." James shook their hands with the easy confidence of someone who knew exactly what his presence meant. "Pleasure. Beautiful party." Victoria had recovered her composure. "I'm sorry, there must be some confusion. This is a private event, family only." "Oh, I'm aware," James said smoothly. "Ivy's family. That makes her invited, doesn't it?" "Derek," Victoria hissed, quiet enough that others wouldn't hear, but loud enough for us. "You said she wasn't coming." "I didn't think—" Derek looked at me like I'd betrayed him. "Ivy, this isn't funny. You're going to embarrass yourself." "Am I?" I looked around at the glittering crowd. "Why would I be embarrassed, Derek?" Before he could answer, a voice boomed across the foyer. "Harrison? James Harrison?" A tall, silver-haired man in an impeccable tuxedo was striding toward us. Charles Montgomery, Victoria's father, the man who was so far above my level that I wasn't worthy of attending his party. "Charles!" James shook his hand warmly. "I didn't expect to see you until our meeting next week." "Meeting?" Victoria looked between her father and James, confused. Charles smiled, but there was tension around his eyes. "Yes, well, I hoped we might keep business and pleasure separate, but since you're here, Harrison, perhaps we can have a preliminary conversation. The Montgomery Resort Group situation is rather urgent." "Of course," James gestured to me. "Have you met my senior data strategist, Ivy Chen? She's the one who's been analyzing your properties." The silence that followed was profound. Charles Montgomery looked at me, really looked at me for the first time. "Ivy Chen? You're the analyst Harrison's been raving about? The one who found the solutions to our problems?" "Data strategist," I corrected gently. "And yes, that would be me." Derek's face had gone white. Victoria's mouth was open in a small, shocked "oh." "But," Victoria finally found her voice, "you're Derek's sister. You work in— You said you did data entry." "I never said that," I replied calmly. "Derek assumed that. I just never corrected him." Charles was still staring at me like he was recalculating everything. "Your family? Victoria? Why didn't I know Derek's sister was the Ivy Chen?" I didn't—" Victoria looked lost. "Dad, what do you mean, the Ivy Chen?" Victoria's confusion was almost pitiful. James laughed. "Ivy's something of a legend in our industry. She's the strategist behind Apex's turnaround. Every major decision we've made in the last 3 years has been based on her analysis. She's the best in the business." Charles' expression shifted from shock to something else: interest, respect, and a touch of embarrassment. "Miss Chen, I've read your preliminary analysis of our properties. It's the most insightful work I've seen in 30 years of business. The way you identified the root causes of our problems, the solutions you proposed, it's remarkable." "Thank you," I said simply. "I had no idea you were related to—" He glanced at Derek and Victoria, and understanding slowly dawned on his face. "I see." The evening that followed was surreal. Charles insisted I meet his wife, Margaret, who turned out to be fascinating and far more interested in my work than in my clothes or car. He introduced me to his business partners, his friends, his colleagues. Each introduction came with praise for my analysis, questions about my methodology, requests for my insights.
Derek and Victoria hovered at the edges, watching their entire understanding of me shatter in real time. Around 10 p.m., I found myself on the terrace overlooking the pool. The party was in full swing inside, but I'd needed a moment of air. The view was spectacular. LA sprawling below us in a carpet of lights. "Mind if I join you?" I turned. Victoria stood in the doorway, looking uncertain in a way I'd never seen her look before. "It's your house," I said. She came to stand beside me at the railing. For a moment, we both just looked at the view. "I owe you an apology," she finally said. "Do you?" I made assumptions about who you were, what you were worth. She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Derek told me you worked some boring office job, that you were struggling, that you'd be uncomfortable around my family. I believed him because it was easier than questioning it." "Why would it be easier?" Victoria was quiet for a long moment. "Because if you were ordinary, it meant I'd married up. It meant my family was superior. It meant I'd made the right choice." She turned to look at me. "But you're not ordinary, you're extraordinary, and that means I've been treating someone extraordinary like they were beneath me." "You have," I agreed. "I'm sorry, truly. Not just because my father thinks you're a genius, not just because you might save our family business, but because I was cruel, and you didn't deserve that." I studied her face. She looked genuinely distressed. "Victoria, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Did you ever think to get to know me before making judgments? Did you ever think to ask what I actually did, where I actually worked, who I actually was?" She closed her eyes. "No, I didn't, and that's the worst part. I saw the surface and assumed I knew everything." "That's the problem with people like you," I said, not unkindly. "You're so used to judging people by their appearance, their possessions, their status, that you forget to look at who they actually are." "People like me," she repeated softly. "You're right. God, you're right." Inside, I could see Derek through the windows. He was talking to Charles, and from his body language, it wasn't going well. Charles looked disappointed. Derek looked desperate. "Your father's talking to Derek," I said. Victoria followed my gaze. "Dad's not happy. He asked Derek why he never mentioned that his sister was a data genius. Derek said he didn't know. Dad asked how you could be his sister and he didn't know. Derek didn't have a good answer." "There isn't a good answer." "No," Victoria agreed. "There isn't." We stood in silence for another moment. Then Victoria said, "Will you help us with the resorts? Dad says you're our only hope." I thought about it. Thought about saying no. Thought about letting the Montgomery Resort Group fail, letting them learn a hard lesson about judging people. But that wasn't who I was. I didn't withhold help because of petty revenge. I solved problems. That's what I did. "I'll help. Not because of tonight, not because of the apology, but because I'm good at what I do, and I don't let personal feelings interfere with good work." Victoria nodded. "Thank you. That's more grace than I deserve." "Probably," I agreed, "but grace isn't about what people deserve, it's about who you choose to be." The party continued until well after midnight. When the countdown happened, I stood with James and Charles, watching the fireworks over Los Angeles. Derek and Victoria were across the room. Derek caught my eye once, and I saw something broken in his expression. Shame, maybe, or regret. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. James drove me home around 1 a.m. We were quiet most of the way, both processing the evening. "That was quite a show," he finally said as we pulled up to my apartment building. "Was it?" "Ivy, you walked into a party you'd been uninvited to, revealed yourself as the secret genius saving their family empire, and did it all with such class that they ended the night respecting you. Yeah, I'd call that quite a show." I smiled. "I didn't do it for show." "I know. That's what made it so effective." He turned to look at me. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry your brother treated you that way. You deserved better." "Yeah," I said quietly. "I did." The meeting with Montgomery Resort Group happened 2 weeks later. I presented my full strategy in a conference room at Apex headquarters. Charles was there, along with his executive team. Derek and Victoria weren't invited. This was business. My presentation took 2 hours. I walked them through every problem, every solution, every projection. When I finished, the room was silent. Then Charles started clapping. Slowly at first, then the others joined in. "Ms. Chen," Charles said, "you've just saved my family's legacy. These resorts have been in my family for 3 generations. I thought we were going to lose them. But this gives us a future." "The plan works if you follow it exactly," I cautioned. "No shortcuts, no second-guessing the data. Trust the process." "We will," Charles promised. "And, Ms. Chen, I'd like to offer you a position as a consultant for Montgomery Resort Group. Name your price." I shook my head. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm happy at Apex. However, I'm willing to consult on this project until the resorts are stabilized. Standard consulting rates." Charles smiled. "You drive a hard bargain." "No," I corrected. "I know my worth. There's a difference." The Montgomery Resort Group turnaround became a case study in the hospitality industry. Within 6 months, the 3 failing properties were profitable. Within a year, the entire chain had increased revenue by 38%. Industry magazines wrote articles about the remarkable recovery. My name was mentioned in several of them. Derek called me in March. "Ivy, can we meet? I'd like to talk." We met at a coffee shop in Silver Lake, neutral territory. Derek looked different, maybe older, or just more aware. "I've been thinking a lot about what I said to you, about uninviting you to the party, about calling you an embarrassment, about assuming you were just less than." I sipped my coffee and waited. "I was wrong, obviously, but it's more than that. I was wrong in a way that says something really ugly about me. I'm your brother. I should have known you. I should have asked. I should have cared enough to understand your life instead of just assuming I knew." "Yes," I agreed, "you should have." "Can you forgive me?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Derek, I can forgive you, but I can't forget. You showed me who you are when you think someone is beneath you. You're kind and charming and loving to people you think are worth it. But to people you think are ordinary, you dismiss them. You discard them." "That's not fair, isn't it? Derek, be honest. If I'd stayed the person you thought I was, if I really was just a data entry clerk in a small apartment, would you ever have apologized? Would you ever have reconsidered?" He was quiet for a long time. "I don't know," he finally admitted. "I want to say yes, but I don't know." "At least that's honest." I finished my coffee. "I forgive you, Derek, but our relationship is different now. I know what your love is conditional on, and I can't unknow that." "So where does that leave us?" "It leaves us as family. I'll come to holidays, I'll be civil to Victoria, I'll be your sister, but I won't be the sister who pretends to be less than she is to make you comfortable, and I won't forget that when you thought I was ordinary, I wasn't worth including." Derek nodded slowly. His eyes were wet. "I deserve that." "Yeah," I said gently, "you do." 6 months after the New Year's party, Apex Hospitality Group completed the acquisition of Montgomery Resort Group. It was the biggest deal in the company's history. James Harrison credited me in the press release, and my name appeared in the Wall Street Journal. Charles Montgomery retired and moved to his estate in Napa. Before he left, he sent me a handwritten note. "Miss Chen, thank you for saving what my family built. But more importantly, thank you for the lesson you taught an old man. I spent 30 years in business thinking I could judge people by their appearance and their status. You showed me how wrong I was. That's a gift more valuable than any business deal. With respect and gratitude, Charles Montgomery." I kept the note in my desk drawer. As for me, I bought a new car, not because I needed to impress anyone, but because I'd saved the money and I wanted one. A Tesla. Practical and nice.
still me. I moved to a bigger apartment too, 2 bedrooms instead of 1, not in Beverly Hills, still in Koreatown, but nicer, with a view. And I kept doing what I did best, solving problems, finding patterns, creating strategies that turned struggling companies into success stories. Because that's who I was, not ordinary, not extraordinary, just Ivy Chen, a woman who knew her worth and didn't need anyone else to validate it. The best revenge, I'd learned, wasn't making people regret underestimating you. It was being so secure in yourself that their estimation didn't matter in the first place. And on the rare occasions when I saw Derek and Victoria at family gatherings, I was cordial, kind even, because holding on to anger was exhausting, and I had better things to do with my energy. At Thanksgiving that year, Victoria pulled me aside. "Ivy, I wanted to tell you something. Dad's cancer treatment is going well. The doctors are optimistic." "I'm glad," I said, and I meant it. "He asked me to tell you that if it weren't for the resort recovery, he wouldn't have had the money for the experimental treatment. You saved more than his business. You saved his life." I felt something twist in my chest. I didn't know he was sick. We kept it private, but he wanted you to know. He said you're the best person he's met in business, not because of your brain, though that's impressive, but because you chose to help even when you had every reason not to. I didn't know what to say to that. Victoria continued, "I think about that night a lot. The party, how I treated you before, how you handled it after. You could have destroyed us, you had the power, but you chose grace instead." "Grace isn't weakness," I said. "No," Victoria agreed. "It's the opposite. It takes strength to be kind to people who've hurt you. I'm still learning that. We're all still learning." That night, as I drove home in my new Tesla, I thought about the past year, about being hidden, revealed, and ultimately liberated.
I'd spent so much of my life being quiet, being modest. Not because I was insecure, but because I genuinely didn't need external validation. But there was a difference between not needing validation and letting people make you invisible. I wasn't invisible anymore, and I'd never let anyone make me feel that way again. The following week, I was promoted to Vice President of Strategic Analysis at Apex. At 30 years old, I was one of the youngest VPs in the company's history. James called me into his office to tell me personally, "Ivy, this promotion isn't just because of Montgomery Resort Group. It's because of everything you've done, but I'd be lying if I said that night at the party didn't influence my thinking." "How so?" "I watched you walk into a situation that would have destroyed most people. You were calm, professional, and graceful. Those are the qualities I need in leadership, not just brilliance, but character." "Thank you, James." "No," he said seriously. "Thank you. You've taught me something important too. I hired you because you were brilliant, but I'm promoting you because you're good. And in the long run, good matters more than brilliant." That night, I called my parents. I'd told them about everything that had happened, and they'd been appropriately horrified at Derek's behavior. "Mom, I got promoted," I said when she answered. "Oh, Ivy, that's wonderful. Your father, pick up the other phone. Ivy has news." My father got on the line. "What's going on?" "I'm vice president now, VP of Strategic Analysis." There was a pause. Then my father said, his voice thick with emotion, "Ivy, we've always been proud of you, but not because of titles or money. We're proud because you're kind, you're strong, you know who you are. That's worth more than any promotion." "Dad, let me finish. What Derek did, that hurt us, not just because he hurt you, but because we raised him better than that, or we thought we did. We're still processing that. He's still your son," I said, "and you're still our daughter. Both things are true." My mother's voice was gentle. "We love Derek, but we're disappointed in him, and we're so proud of you." After we hung up, I sat in my apartment, looking out at the city lights. I thought about the girl I'd been a year ago, quiet, hidden, content in her obscurity. I wasn't that girl anymore, not because I'd changed, but because I'd finally let people see who I'd always been. And you know what? It felt good. Not because of the recognition, not because of the promotion or the respect or the apology, but because I'd finally stopped hiding, because I'd finally taken up the space I deserved, and because I'd learned that the people who matter will see your worth regardless of how you present it. And the people who don't, they were never worth impressing in the first place. 3 years have passed since that New Year's Eve party. A lot has changed. Derek and Victoria had a baby, a daughter they named Eleanor. I'm her godmother, surprisingly. Victoria asked me with tears in her eyes, saying she wanted Eleanor to grow up knowing strong women who knew their worth. I started mentoring young women in data science, particularly those from modest backgrounds, because I remembered being underestimated, and I wanted to teach them not to let anyone make them feel small. Charles Montgomery recovered from his cancer. He and I have coffee once a month. He's become something like a mentor, teaching me about business strategy while I teach him about modern data analysis. It's an odd friendship, but a genuine one. And Derek? Derek is trying. He's not perfect. He still sometimes slips into old patterns of judging people by surface things, but he catches himself now. He apologizes. He's learning. I'm learning too, learning that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, learning that family is complicated, learning that you can love people and still hold them accountable. But most importantly, I learned this. Your worth is not determined by who recognizes it. Your value is not defined by who appreciates it. You are exactly as extraordinary as you are, regardless of whether anyone else sees it. And when they finally do see it, when they finally recognize what they missed, you don't owe them anything. Not anger, not revenge, not even forgiveness. All you owe them is the truth of who you've always been. And then you walk forward, head high, knowing that you never needed their validation in the first place. Because the only opinion of you that truly matters is your own. And mine has always been crystal clear. I am Ivy Chen. I'm brilliant, kind, and strong. I solve impossible problems. I treat people with grace even when they don't deserve it. And I know exactly what I'm worth. Whether anyone else does, that's their problem, not mine.